Sometimes you think you know someone your entire life, and then one dinner changes everything. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy hearing about family drama, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more stories like this one. I'm Blair, and I need to tell you what happened when I brought my boyfriend home to meet my dad. At 22, I thought I had everything figured out. Joel was this incredible guy, gorgeous, charming, and his family had the kind of money that opened every door. We'd been dating for 8 months, and I was completely head over heels. His car loan was worth more than most people make in 2 years, this sleek, pearl white thing that made everyone stop and stare when we pulled up anywhere. My dad, Trevor, though, he was the complete opposite of impressive. 52 years old and still living in the same cramped house his parents left him, acting like his little industrial business was something to be proud of. The man spent his evenings in a dusty workshop, building furniture like some kind of hobbyist, and our house looked like it hadn't seen an update since the Reagan administration. I loved him, but I was also deeply embarrassed by how small our life looked compared to what Joel was used to. When Joel agreed to come for dinner, I spent 3 days cleaning and rearranging, trying to make our place look less pathetic. I picked out my best dress, did my hair perfectly, because I knew Joel's standards were high. His family had real wealth, the kind where you casually mention skiing in Europe or spending summers on yachts. I wanted so badly for Trevor to make a good impression, maybe even hint at having more money than our modest lifestyle suggested. The evening started okay. Joel rolled up in that stunning car, and I felt a flutter of pride walking him to our front door. But I could see him taking everything in, the small lawn, the basic landscaping. The house that screamed middle-class mediocrity. Trevor answered the door wearing this ancient apron, flour in his hair from whatever he'd been cooking, and I wanted to disappear. "Joel, this is my dad. Dad, this is Joel." I tried to sound confident, but my voice came out higher than usual. Trevor wiped his hands on that embarrassing apron and extended one to Joel. "Nice to meet you. Blair's told me a lot about you." Joel smiled, but I caught him glancing around our living room with barely concealed disappointment. The mismatched furniture Trevor had restored himself the bookshelf that looked like a middle school shop project, the complete absence of anything that screamed success or sophistication. I kept shooting Trevor looks, hoping he'd mention his business, or at least try to sound more impressive than he was acting. Over dinner, things got worse. Trevor served this pot roast he'd been bragging about all day, acting like he was some kind of master chef. Joel picked at it politely while telling us about his actual life. Ski trips to Verbier, his summer internship on a yacht in Monaco, the difficult decision between slate gray or midnight black for his next car purchase. His father, he mentioned multiple times, was the COO of some major manufacturing company. I hung on every word, imagining myself in that world. But Trevor just sat there with this weird little smile, asking Joel probing questions about his plans and values like he was conducting some kind of interview. It was mortifying. Here was this successful, ambitious guy trying to be gracious about our shabby little setup, and Trevor was treating him like a job applicant. "This is such a cozy neighborhood," Joel said, looking around with what I recognized as polite condescension. He ran a finger along the bookshelf Trevor had built. "Lots of character." I cringed internally. Character was code for old and cheap, and we all knew it. Joel spent the next hour detailing his lifestyle, which seemed to consist primarily of spending his father's money in increasingly impressive ways. The stories about Monaco, about choosing between luxury cars, about the kind of life I desperately wanted to be part of. I was practically glowing thinking about how Joel could lift me out of this mediocrity, give me the kind of existence I deserved. Trevor kept refilling water glasses and asking these penetrating questions that made Joel slightly uncomfortable. Looking back, I should have wondered why my quiet, unassuming father was so calm around someone who was essentially flexing wealth and connections. But I was too focused on how small everything looked through Joel's eyes. The cheap wine Trevor had opened, the mismatched plates, the complete absence of luxury. As we were heading to the door, Joel did something that should have been romantic. He pulled me close, giving Trevor this look of profound pity. "It's been an experience, Daniel." "Really?" Joel said, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "But don't worry, I'll be taking care of her now. She won't have to live like this anymore." He gestured vaguely at our home, at our life, at Trevor himself. I expected Trevor to be grateful, maybe even relieved that someone with Joel's resources wanted to provide for his daughter. Instead, Trevor got this strange, cold look on his face. The air went completely still, and I felt something shift that I couldn't identify. Trevor looked at Joel, this beautiful, confident guy who was offering to upgrade my entire existence, and gave him the most condescending smile I'd ever seen. Good luck, Trevor said quietly. The tone made my skin crawl. It wasn't grateful or impressed. It was almost amused, like Joel had just told him a particularly stupid joke. After we left, Joel was quiet in the car. I spent the entire ride apologizing for Trevor's weird behavior, trying to convince Joel that I wasn't like my father, that I wanted the same sophisticated life he could provide. But I could tell something had shifted. Joel seemed distant, processing what had just happened in a way that made me nervous. Your dad's interesting, he finally said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. The next few days were absolute chaos. Joel's credit cards started getting declined. His father came home looking like he'd been hit by a truck. And then Joel was calling me screaming about how Trevor had destroyed his family. At first I thought he was being dramatic. How could Trevor, with his boring little component business and modest lifestyle, possibly affect someone as powerful as Joel's father? But Joel was sobbing on the phone, explaining that Trevor had fired his dad, that somehow my quiet, unassuming father was actually Joel's father's boss. I felt like I was in some kind of alternate reality. All this time I'd been embarrassed by Trevor's humble attitude and simple living, and it turned out he was wealthy enough to destroy Joel's entire family with a single phone call. The pearl white car got repossessed. Joel's credit cards were canceled. The guy who'd promised to take care of me was suddenly begging me to save him. You have to talk to him, Joel pleaded, his voice breaking. My dad said he pissed off someone important and that I had to fix it. He's taking everything back. The car, the credit cards, everything. Please, Blair. I didn't know who your father was. That's when it hit me. Joel wasn't sorry for insulting Trevor. He was sorry for insulting someone powerful. The crime wasn't the disrespect. It was the miscalculation. I tried everything to fix the situation. I begged Trevor to reconsider, to give Joel's father another chance. But Trevor was completely unmovable, claiming it was just a business decision based on performance metrics. He never raised his voice, never seemed angry. He just calmly explained that he'd reviewed the numbers and decided to go in a different direction. It has nothing to do with Joel, Trevor said, but I could see the lie in his eyes. Joel's desperation got uglier by the day. He went from being this confident, charming guy to someone I barely recognized, angry, bitter, and increasingly cruel to me. When his lifestyle completely collapsed, he turned on me completely. This is your fault, he screamed during one of our fights. You should have warned me. You should have known better. The irony was insane. He started calling me a gold digger, telling everyone that I'd used him for his family's money, which was exactly what I'd been hoping to do. But now that he had nothing to offer, suddenly I was the villain. His friends abandoned him the second the money dried up. Joel went from being the fun party host to the desperate guy who couldn't pay his bar tab. He ended up working at some cell phone kiosk in the mall, spending his breaks complaining to anyone who would listen about his vindictive ex-girlfriend and her horrible father. I tried to maintain the relationship for a while, thinking maybe we could work through it. But Joel became increasingly resentful and nasty. He'd show up at my apartment unannounced, demanding that I convince Trevor to fix his life, getting violent when I couldn't perform miracles. You owe me this, he'd say, backing me against the wall. I was going to give you everything, and your psycho dad destroyed it all. Eventually, I had to block his number. When he wouldn't stop showing up, I called campus security. They issued a formal warning, and finally Joel disappeared from my life entirely. But the damage was done. I couldn't look at Trevor the same way anymore. Why hadn't he told me about his real financial situation? Why had he let me feel embarrassed about our lifestyle when he could have been living like a king? I started seeing his simple living philosophy as a form of manipulation, a way to control me by keeping me ignorant of our real circumstances. You lied to me. I confronted him one evening. You let me think we were poor. Trevor looked up from his workshop where he was sanding some piece of wood like nothing had happened. I never lied about anything, sweetie. You made assumptions. You humiliated me. Joel thought we were nobodies. Joel thought a lot of things that turned out to be wrong, Trevor said kindly. Maybe that should tell you something about Joel. The worst part was how everyone treated the whole situation like some kind of victory for Trevor. Like he'd taught Joel and me some important lesson about humility and respect. My friends acted like I should be grateful that my father had protected me from a bad relationship. But all I could think about was the life I'd lost, the opportunities that had disappeared because of Trevor's games. I started dating someone new, a grad student who seemed impressed by our family's authenticity. He thought Trevor's workshop was amazing and actually enjoyed listening to stories about the component business. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was settling, that I'd missed my chance at the kind of life I really wanted because of Trevor's manipulation. 18 months later, I'm still living in the same house, still watching Trevor act like his deception was justified. His business is thriving under new leadership, and he seems completely unbothered by the destruction he caused to Joel's family. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Joel had just been more respectful at dinner, if he'd recognized Trevor's power, instead of dismissing him. The last I heard from Joel was a pathetic email asking if I thought Trevor might help him get a decent job. The complete lack of self-awareness was breathtaking. He still didn't understand that his own arrogance had caused this whole mess. I deleted it without responding. Look, I get it now. Trevor was testing us both that night, seeing what kind of people we really were. And maybe Joel failed that test spectacularly. But I can't forgive Trevor for keeping me in the dark, for letting me feel ashamed of our life when he had the power to change everything. I'm not the same person I was before that dinner, and I'm not sure that's entirely a good thing. Sometimes I catch Trevor watching me with that same knowing smile he gave Joel, and I wonder if this was always his plan. If he enjoyed watching me squirm, enjoyed the lesson he thought he was teaching. The man I thought was weak and unambitious turned out to be calculating and ruthless, and I'm still trying to figure out which version was real. Between us, I think they both were.